and welcome to the next episode of my Writing a Book series. That was my Books on Magic t-shirt because I pressed record as I was sitting down, and I'm not gonna edit it. I'm just gonna leave it in. So, thank you to everyone who has who's watching, and for those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Steve McHugh, and I'm a best-selling author of, I was informed yesterday, 19 books, which I forgot. So, because that's a lot. So, this week was going to be about writing the first line. But I thought of something else. Prologues. Yes or no? Now, I want to make things very clear before we start. This is not a how to write a book guide, because there is no real guide to writing a book. There's no one size fits all, basically. There's no, well, that worked for me, so it worked for everybody, because that's not how it works. That's not how writing works. That's not how anything works, really. So, this is how I do things, and these are my thoughts. And if they can help you, then we've all won. And if they don't help you, at least you can cross it off of the things that you could do to find the way for you. So, prologues. Yes. Now, before we start, I'm in the prologue camp. I like prologues. I have used them quite a few times. About a dozen times, I think, in my books. They're good. They are a very good tool for an author when used right. And that's kind of a big part of this. When used right, they work great. When not used right, they suck. I'll tell you what I feel is using right and not. So, using them correctly. I made a list. Everything. Using them correctly. There are really only, in my mind, three main ways in which you would use a prologue. Number one, to advance the story. Now, that might sound silly, but every single chapter that you write should advance the story. If your chapter does not advance the story, your chapter does not need to exist. Everything in the book should advance the story. You can have all of these little cool things that you want, but there should at least something. There should be something in a chapter that advances the plot of the book in some way. Okay, and the prologue is no different. The second one is that if you are writing this seems to happen quite a bit in like mysteries and thrillers and things. If you are writing a mystery or a thriller or something where there is a mystery, the prologue is a really good place to start putting little seeds, putting little bits of information for people to latch onto. It's what I use them for mostly, and they're really helpful for that. And the last one, which I haven't come across a whole lot, but I recently read a book by, I don't remember, John Scalzi? Yeah. And he wrote the second book of the three. He wrote how his prologue in that second book was sort of what happened before, but from the point of view of a different character who wasn't really in the first book and isn't really in the second book. And I thought that was very clever, and I quite enjoyed it. And I don't think that works with every book, and obviously, but I did like that. I also think that prologues are very good if you're writing a book and your mystery begins decades, years, centuries, whatever ago, and you use it to populate that idea. Prologue. Now, what prologues are not? There's two things prologues aren't, really, that people write them as. And number one is a chapter one. It's not a chapter one. Don't write it as a chapter one. If you're writing a prologue as a chapter one, it's called chapter one. That's the point of a chapter one. Prologue is not there as a chapter one. I have written prologues before 4 books that have become chapter 1s because it's been very, very evident that, well, they are chapter 1. The other thing it's not is an info dump. I'm sure that your world building is very exciting. I do not need to feel like I'm about to study for a test with the prologue. Your world building, however clever and brilliant it is, should come through in the writing of the book, not be in the first 4 pages, because that's terrible. World building's brilliant. I love it. I love doing it. I love all the little ideas that I come up with, and but no one wants to read an entire chapter of just world building. That's really stale and there's no life to it. Now you can put world building in a prologue. There's no reason why you can't, but not just not an info dump. You wouldn't do that in chapter 1 or chapter 4 or whatever. You don't do in a prologue. So, should you write a prologue? Well, yes, no. Now, as I've said before, if what you fit into one of those categories and your prologue is really just a chapter 1, probably not. If your prologue is there and it's set before the book, or it's set with different characters of the book, and you're seeding things, sure. You should know a few things though. Number 1, there's lots of people who don't like prologues. There's a lot of people who won't read prologues, which I find odd. But, yeah. I have met people who work in the publishing industry who simply outright don't like prologues and will not accept a book with the prologue in. I've been told that by people who are like, oh, I won't accept a book with a prologue in it, which is just mind-blowing. But if this is your first book and you're really interested in having it traditionally published, and you want an agent, and you want a publisher, and you want an editor, and you're going to get an editor anyway, but a publisher, agent publisher, maybe consider not having a prologue in your first book, just to make your odds a bit better. But the book needs it, the book demands it, put one in anyway, because you'll find someone who will love your book for what it is, and that's fine. I don't want you to feel like if this is your first book you shouldn't have a prologue, because that's not what I'm saying. The odds increase with that one because there are people who don't like them. But if your prologue's really good, I don't think it matters. I think you'll find someone who loves it with the prologue. So, that is something you need to be aware of. If you're self-publishing the book, this is much less of a problem, because obviously, if you're self-publishing, you're not trying to you're possibly trying to get an agent. You're probably not trying to get a publisher. You're going to have an editor, and you could discuss things with the editor, and you'll probably have readers, and you could discuss things with the readers. But it's much less of a concern, because you've got no one who is there at a level who will read your book before passing on to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. So yeah, there's something to take into consideration, I feel. So, should you write a prologue? I've already asked this question, and I've kind of already answered it. Like, I like prologues, and I think they work really well. I like epilogues too, but that's a different thing altogether. And I think that if your book demands a prologue, write the prologue. You can remove the prologue. You can get rid of it. You can change it. You can do whatever you want. It is your book. Don't let people tell you shouldn't do it. Now, if your prologue is terrible, you shouldn't do it, because people will tell you that's terrible. I would hope people would. If you're trying to self-publish, especially, and you have an editor, I would hope the editor would say, this needs work. If you don't have an editor and you're trying to self-publish, what the hell are you doing? Please get an editor, is what I'm saying. CS. Prologues are great. Prologues are a wonderful tool, and they are recommended as yet another tool in the arsenal of an author. But not every book needs them. Not every book should have them at all. And not every author is good at writing them. And you need to find out A, if your book needs it, and B, if you're any good at writing them. Those are the two things about all prologues. And anything. If there are certain things that any author is not going to be as good as something else. And they either have to practice and try and get good at that, or they stick to their strengths. And prologues is just the same as anything else. So, that was it. And I know that didn't really give a conclusive kind of like yes or no, but that's not really what writing is. There is no conclusive yes or no. I think the sooner people realise that on their journey, the journey is easier. There's no definitive, this is how you do something. There's no definitive, you are wrong or right. Even if I think you're wrong or right, that doesn't matter. And prologues are the same as anything else. So, next week, we're going to talk about the opening line. Which, as I've said, I'm writing a book at the moment, which is the whole point while I'm doing these videos. And I've rewritten that opening line about 20 times. So, yeah, that'll be a fun and not at all frustrating look at opening lines of a book. Or my books. Or this book. Or whatever. But until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did like it, please do like and subscribe. And I'll see you all next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.